This video is sponsored by Bellesa Boutique. Stick around to hear more about an exciting giveaway. Hey everyone, it's Jack. So this past roast episode has become the highest rated episode of Drag Race, tying season 16's Lollapalooza. The roast itself I thought was really great, but what made this episode so juicy was the drama that was involved. And one of the big things to come out of it, I want to call Jokegate. All because Ariete decided to steal Jules' jokes as a way to get back at Jules for where she was placed in the roast. This is easily one of the shadiest moments from the show, and I just love all of the drama that it provided just for them to end up in the bottom together. It reminds me a lot of when Diabetti was taking Bosco's answers on Snatch Game, but Bosco was also flopping in Snatch Game, so they were just like falling down together. At the start of the season during interviews, people were asking who was the villain of the season, and a lot of them were saying Ariete. And up to this moment, we saw that she was very shady and spoke her mind, but nothing like really crazy villainous. But after this episode, it really seems to all make sense. What's super interesting to me is that it's a very interesting character look at who Jules is as a person, because though it was very obvious that Ariete stole her jokes, Jules kept it to herself in a way to protect Ariete. So it then became this behind the scenes knowledge that wasn't presented to the queens in the episode. And then it later becomes a very interesting character look at Ariete when she's in Untucked and is blowing up at Anya, because it seems pretty clear that she's deflecting and has a lot of energy behind the fact that she did steal these jokes. So I think that was weighing heavy on her, and that was affecting how she was responding to this in the moment. I never thought that the order in which people went would cause this much conflict on the show in the first place. Like, we've seen conflict break out with like roles that people want to get and they don't end up with, but as they said in the episode, if your set's not funny, you're not funny. If your set's funny, you're going to be funny. It really doesn't matter where you place outside of maybe first. So it's just really fascinating how upset Ariete and Lexi got to the situation and what Ariete decided to resort to that had a snowball effect in the episode. And I've just been reflecting a lot on the drama of season 17 because that's one of its main selling points at this point, and in a lot of these major conflicts, it's transcending just what we see on the screen. These types of conflicts are considered gates among fans, which is a definition I'll get back into in a second. This video is sponsored by Bellesa Boutique. Bellesa Boutique is an online adult toy shop center that has products that fit just your needs. If you've been on the internet in the past couple months, you've seen either me or the queens posing with these toys, and honestly, it's for real good reason. These toys are high quality and durable for a wide range of very fun activities. And once again, just like last time, although we want to eliminate the stigma around products like these, we still have to sugarcoat our words for YouTube. Up first, we have the Ultra Blow, which seems to be like the fan favorite product from the looks of it. This is an automated device that twirls and dips up and down your main stage at 8 different motion patterns and rotating speeds. It's also ribbed for maximum lip sync pleasure. There's also the Halo 2, the perfect ring accessory for your curling iron that enhances performance and increases stamina for the user. There are 5 speeds of vibration, perfect for any couple who wants to share the accessory. Finally, there's the Tush, a sleek, stylish Lydia butthole plug with an internal motor and 10 unique vibration modes. The toy is made of silicone, so it adds an extra layer of comfortability. I really love this company. I've loved working with them. I love their message and everything that they want to promote, and you can really see the quality behind the toys that they put out. With all this being said, Bellesa Boutique and I are here to hook you up with an exciting giveaway. Anyone who signs up will receive free toys or gift cards. Click the link in the description and sign up with your email. It's a really cool offer. Thank you so much to Bellesa Boutique for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the video. The term blank gate has been thrown around Drag Race a lot, and in this video I want to explain each of the most famous gates, why they happened, and just kind of give the context behind them. For those who don't know why it's called gate, it's a term commonly used based off of American history. To sum it up in most basic terms so people don't click off the video after talking about American history, there was a scandal called Watergate involving the president of the time, Richard Nixon, where part of his administration planted listening devices in the Democratic National Committee headquarters in a building called Watergate. From what I remember learning about this, before this happened, a lot of like American politics was very like neutral washed. The public was really quick to take the president and their administration at face value, but after this came out, it kind of blew the lid over everything, and this caused a ripple effect where people started to distrust the American government a lot more. Long story short, the gate term refers to a scandal, something that happens in a setting often behind the scenes that flips someone's perception of what's actually going on. Over the years, the term has flipped and changed, and of course on Drag Race, it's not meant to be the most serious thing. To me, what constitutes as a gate is a conflict that starts off camera or a conflict that happens on camera that has extra context off camera, and often it shakes up how the competition is supposed to run smoothly. If you want another example from season 17, look no further than Spray Paint Gate. For those who need a refresher, this was the week of the ball episode where they got to work outside with spray paint if they wanted to design their outfits. Production has done this before, most recently on All Stars 9, where it was the paintball, and they got a little outside station to work on their outfits. One big caveat of working outside with all of these paints is that they have to spray behind like a protective sheet, something like a tarp, you know? And Lexi just so happened to be using a tarp for her outfit that she spray painted a color of an average blue tarp. She left it on the ground to dry, and Arietti and Anya both assumed that that was one of the protective sheets that they needed to use in order to not get spray paint everywhere. So they both spray painted on it, messing up Lexi's outfit. And then Lexi comes back into the workroom, rightfully really upset and stressed, calling out to everyone, asking who ruined her outfit. And this is where, you know, online discourse gets really messy. Anya didn't say that she was the one to do it right away, instead turning her back to Lexi and just remaining quiet. Once Lexi left the room, she then told the rest of the girls what happened. And from there, Lexi goes back outside to talk to Arietti, and Arietti confesses that both her and Anya accidentally spray painted on her outfit. Lexi goes back inside now knowing the information and confronts Anya, kind of saying that she was more hurt that she didn't speak up right away, along with just being stressed that she had to do a big part of her outfit all over again. And Anya's defense for not stepping forward right away is that Lexi was clearly worked up and she didn't know if it was the right time. Later in the episode, they made up and they were both called safe for the challenge, so kind of no harm, no foul. Lexi had every right to be emotional and upset, and while I do think she jumped to conclusions a little too quickly about the game that Anya was playing, I think that was very clearly an emotional response to everything that was going on, and I don't think she actually really believed that Anya was trying to mess up her outfit on purpose. As for Anya, where it escalated towards the end is when Lexi referred to her kind of playing a dirty game, and I think that's what really upset Anya, while beforehand she was trying to approach the situation very neutrally. As someone who is extremely conflict avoidant, I totally get Anya's response to not talk right away. Sometimes I just shut down, and when someone's coming in very clearly upset, and even if you are at fault, it's just hard to like come forward. And I do think it was best for Anya to come forward much sooner, but I think it all just got timed so perfectly wrong that she didn't really have any time to talk to Lexi before Lexi came back in. When Lexi left the room and then Anya turned to all the queens and said, okay, you want to know what happened? That wasn't out of malintent by any means. I think she was clearly asking for guidance over a situation that she was stressed about. And once again, she should have talked to her way sooner, especially like right after it happened. But I think we just got a very interesting look into both Anya and Lexi's psyche here. It was a messy situation that no one's at fault for. Things could have just been handled a little better. And it's caused a lot of bad mojo online, but I feel like people are slowly coming around to just being entertained by it. And on the bright side, Drag Race will probably win an Emmy again. Let's go with another really famous example, Wiggate from season 11. On this season, there was a queen that was competing named Ariel Versace. She was a pretty big social media queen, and she had her own wig styling business. She was pretty poised to go decently far into the season because she was a big personality who had a lot to say, which is kind of true for all of season 11, but she had this whole social media storyline kind of developing, and then she fell. She fell hard on stage and went home pretty early into the competition. She was pretty distraught while packing up, so she decided to move her wigs to another station, that being Plastiques, while she was packing the rest of her stuff, but then she forgot to get those wigs. She left one red wig for Silky, and then the rest of the wigs were in Plastique station, and Plastique assumed that she left them for her, under the assumption that they were best friends and they were close in the competition, so this was just like a parting gift. It then became a point of discussion in one of the untucks, and then Ariel came back for the makeover challenge. She explained basically what I explained to you and just wanted to know where they were, and especially a purple crimped one that just so happened to be taken by Raja O'Hara, one of like the few queens that wasn't there for the makeover. The conflict more or less just goes unresolved in the episode. Ariel is still very upset, but she's just not saying anything. So then come the reunion, we talk about it again, and Ariel is called out for holes in his story through a tweet that she made. Post-season, after she left and in the Untucked where Plastique says that she was given the wigs, Ariel tweeted and confirmed that she gave the rest of the wigs to Plastique. But then when she came back on the season, she said that she didn't leave the wigs for Plastique, so people were really confused. But everything starts to make more sense if you just know how the fandom works. It was clear that Plastique was getting a lot of heat in this situation, so Ariel decided to tweet in order to help Plastique, even if what she was tweeting wasn't exactly true. Even after she explains this, they were still confused at the reunion, with Silky leading the charge, which is extremely ironic because Silky was one of the queens who had a wig left for her by Ariel. And once again, the conflict just kind of goes unresolved, with RuPaul saying that he's more confused than ever. The only part that does get resolved is the purple wig that Raja took, where Raja gives this iconic line.
Did you take a wig home?
There was one of her wigs that made it in my suitcase.
Yeah.
This situation in some ways was blown out of proportion, but Ariel has every right to be upset because these wigs were probably a lot of money. It was just extremely messy how everything was handled, with like 5 or 6 narratives all going on, with none of them coming together to help Ariel's case. Wiggate is one of the biggest gates to come out of Drag Race, and it's still one that's really fun to talk about today. And I guess we could stick with reunions where we talk about Valentina and Maskgate. Valentina was a young prodigy frontrunner on season 9, only doing drag for like less than a year at that point, point, but it's clear that the judges loved her. Like, she could walk out on the runway in a diaper and they would say that her smile is beautiful. She had all the chops to go all the way in the competition. But after a bad challenge performance, she finds herself in the bottom where she has to lip sync to Greedy by Ariana Grande. On the runway that week, she wore a mask as a part of her outfit, and during the lip sync, she decided not to take it off. The song goes on for about a minute before RuPaul stops it, which she has never done before, and she very sternly asks Valentina to take that thing off her mouth.
Take that thing off of your mouth.
Valentina then delivers the iconic response,
I'd like to keep it on, please.
It's a lip sync. What part of that do you not understand? So we're gonna reset. Okay.
But then she does eventually take it off, and we find out that she doesn't really know the words to the song. She loses the lip sync after being expected to make it to the top 3, and it became one of the most shocking eliminations to ever come out of the show. Maskgate is already pretty scandalous enough, with Valentina not lip syncing, RuPaul having to stop the song, and this shocking elimination. But then there's an extra layer added at the reunion, with all of the queens candidly talking about the hate that they get, which they haven't really done before on the show, and a lot of it was revolved around this specific lip sync. To see the deep-rooted emotions from these other queens was pretty shocking, because of course it did affect Valentina very much, but hearing about the other queens like Nina Bonina Brown getting a ton of hate, or people telling Alexis Michelle that she should have volunteered herself to get eliminated, it was messy, and somehow it got even messier. There were conflicts during the initial filming of season 9, but for the most part there were no blowout fights, and it seemed like the cast got along pretty well. And with Valentina, though it didn't seem like she was Miss Congeniality, it didn't seem like there was any bad blood between her or any other people in the cast. So in this reunion, when she did get voted Miss Congeniality by the fans, there was tension in the air because most of the cast didn't think that she deserved it. The cast came into the reunion with a lot of pent-up frustrations with how Valentina was handling situations or just how they were being treated by her fans. And then she left the reunion as Miss Congeniality of their season, or as they put it, Miss Fan Favorite. It added a ton of irony on top of just the whole situation in the first place with Maskgate. Let's hop across the pond for these next 2 entries with Notegate and Scootergate. Notegate comes out of Drag Race Belgique, and you might have passing knowledge of this one if you were on Twitter at the time, because it was a pretty funny moment. With a lot of these international franchises, the sets that they have are extremely small. So in order to get from location A to B, you're walking by a lot of things that they use on the daily. And as the queens and judges were on break, and it seemed like the camera crew was also on break as well, 2 of the queens passed by the judging table and they decided to take a sneak peek at the notes that were there, basically just talking about the challenge that happened and what they wanted to see. The cameras were, however, rolling, and you see the queens looking directly into them as they're looking at the notes, totally being caught red-handed. On the scale of drama and bad things that have happened, this is pretty tame. In some ways, I guess you could say they were cheating, but outside of just like getting a little more knowledge of like what the judges were expecting out of them, it's not that big of a deal. I do say this, but at the same time, I do wish they also played it up a little more, because the way that they went about this was just kind of a slap on the wrist. It was acknowledged in the same episode and then just never talked about again. Scootergate, on the other hand, had way bigger repercussions to it. This happened on Thailand season 2 across 2 episodes. It involved Mocha Diva, who brought it to light, and Miss Gimhue, who ended up being disqualified over this moment. It's not entirely important to the explanation, but for the first 2 seasons of Thailand, the runway and the main challenge were judged differently. Queens could win the main challenge but still end up in the bottom because of their runway, things like that. You can argue whether you like the format or not. I like that there's just any variation from the standard Drag Race format, but the queens put a lot of effort into their runways because they could be a deciding factor in whether they're put in the bottom or not. And Miss Gimhue brought a scooter prop to the competition, but apparently not the full thing. Because they were still close enough to where she lived, she went and got the rest of the scooter pieces and brought them to set, which is against the rules because it wasn't in her original package. I see it ultimately as not that big of a deal because it was a tiny prop involved in a bigger outfit, but it still is breaking the rules, so I understand why queens like Mocha Diva thought it was unfair. But this moment blew up into something much bigger because of the way Mocha Diva went about exposing this. Mocha Diva was eliminated in this episode, told to sashay away, and in her closing words, she decided to bring it to light. She was leaving a scorched path at the same time saying, "I don't want to start any drama," but the judges saw right through this and the real intention by why she was talking about it.
I'm gonna speak up.
Wait, but my question is, why are you telling us now?
Because we know
want to steer the drama.
No, but you are steering the drama.
I don't hold it against her, even though this moment doesn't really do her any favors. There's just so many emotions coming out as you're getting eliminated, so I feel like just in a sense of frustration, she just decided to say it. But it did result in Miss Gimhui's disqualification, and Pangina has said before that she had the stuff to go all the way. Briefly, let's touch on all of the gates that happened in season 15, which I honestly wouldn't very much consider gates. There's Heaven Gate, Metal Gate, 40-inch Gate, and Baby Bump Gate. The queens, especially at the end of the season, just kind of let the word fly around because, you know, it was a more funny term for them, but by like the rules that I'm going with, none of these have to do with any real behind the scenes things or like added extra context. It's just moments that happened on the show. They're just conflicts. They're not gates in my opinion. But just to be quick and thorough, we'll go through chronological order. 40-inch Gate. At the start of the season, Lux walked into the workroom with this wig. Lux claimed that it was 40 inches when it turns out it wasn't, and Irene called her out on it. If I never have to hear the term 40 inches again in any relation to Drag Race, I will be the happiest person alive. The discourse that surrounded this moment at the time was insane. Like, there was so much, and the only reason that it became such a moment was that it was part of the premiere that came out a couple of days before the actual episode, so it was basically all people had to talk about, so it was talked to death. Metal Gate was simply just two groups fighting over which genre they wanted for the Granny's Girl Group Challenge, one of the dumbest challenges of the show. There's nothing really more to it outside of each group being very competitive and wanting to roll, and it being a very entertaining moment. Chronologically, this didn't happen next, but Heaven Gate is very similar. Lucy and Lux both wanted the same role of Heaven in the Rusical. They had a big debate over it. That's basically all it was. And Baby Bump Gate is my personal favorite because I think it's really funny. They did a Night of 1,000 Beyoncés for this season, and Lucy decided to do the moment where she revealed that she was pregnant. And once again, Lux was involved, and Lux called her out saying that she didn't have the bump that Beyonce did have when she revealed her pregnancy. Lucy said that Beyonce didn't have one. If you actually go back and watch it, she was definitely closer to a bump than not a bump. So Lux was right, but at the end of the day, these were just very minor spats, especially when you compare them to the rest of the things that we've already talked about in this video with season-wide conflicts. Things that happened both on camera and off camera, things that had repercussions in the competition. Those all made more waves than any of these four moments, to be honest, outside of maybe 40-inch Gate, but that was more so online with the fans. I will always thank Lux though, because she always gave us something to at least talk about or listen to. Another minor one that does deal with more behind the scenes things is Kimono Gate, which I have talked about before. Like we just mentioned with the Night of 1,000 Beyoncés, this was the Night of 1,000 Madonnas that happened on season 8. And this runway ended up being so disappointing that they redid it on season 9. And it was for the simple fact that 4 out of 8 of them wore a kimono inspired look from one of Madonna's music videos. There are a ton of Madonna looks to choose from, but I feel like everyone was thinking out of the box so much that they circled back and ended up in the box instead. It's really interesting because this Madonna look isn't one of the most famous. Like, it's pretty famous, but of course there's things like the cone bra that is much bigger. But I think everyone was so worried to do that they tried to do something different. If I remember correctly, this was the first night of that they did for any celebrity, and it's just a runway category that I think will always bring some excitement. So when everyone was turning the corner and basically the same outfit, that's where a lot of the disappointment came from. And it's even funnier when behind the scenes there were other people who brought kimono looks as well. So they redid it on season 9, and there were a couple people who had the same look and the judges were getting flashbacks, but it was nothing crazy. Coming back to season 17, we already talked about Joke Gate and Spray Paint Gate, so let's come back to the first one of the season, Trim Gate. It's another pretty minor one that has led to a lot of running jokes about Anya. The queens were asked to design a look that was very opulent, based off of a Monopoly square, and they were each separated into groups of 3. They were judged as individuals, but there was a pool of fabrics and materials that they could all take from, and there was this specific trim that Jules was planning to use on her outfit, but Anya took the trim first before Jules could get to it because Jules' outfit was taking longer than expected with the amount of rouging that she had to do. And to an extent, Anya did disregard it, but with the amount of time that Jules was taking, I feel like Anya felt like it was okay to do. Again, it's just another very gray area moment. You don't really need to take sides at this point. It's happened so long ago, but it led to a very heated discussion. At the end of the day, it's a competition. You got to look out for yourself. And that's what Anya was doing in this moment. She ended up in the top while Jules was just safe, but at the end of the day, Jules did get her design win later in the season. The last gate I want to talk about is from an international franchise, and it's easily the biggest moment out of any of the seasons. And in some ways, this moment led to the death of this spin-off of Drag Race. I'm referring to Phone Gate from Drag Race Holland Season 2. Drag Race Holland was one of the first couple spin-offs of US Drag Race, and though it was never extremely popular, I think it was still doing decently well. It showcased queens like Janie Jacquet and Envy Peru, who is one of the best winners of the franchise, and it was just really cool to see another country get a spin-off of Drag Race. This moment involved 2 queens, Vanessa Van Cartier and Vivaldi. When they were filming their acting challenge, Vanessa had her headpiece fall off in the middle of it, and that's one of her big insecurities about her appearance as a trans woman. She normally has something to cover it up, but in this moment she didn't when the headpiece fell off. It very much got in her head, so after the scene was done filming, she went around and asked each of the queens if she did a good job. Vivaldi took annoyance in this fact and said that she had an insecurity and she just needed to have faith in herself. Vanessa responded telling her to get a grip and that this was just something that was really upsetting her at the time, and from there it escalated past the set back into the workroom. Vanessa is a good couple years older than Vivaldi, and with her age she sees a lot of Vivaldi's actions as very arrogant. So basically Vivaldi sees Vanessa's actions as very insecure and she needs to have faith in herself, and when she expresses that upsets Vanessa, who was definitely in a very vulnerable moment, and brought up concerns that she already had about Vivaldi. Neither of them were seeing eye to eye on both the situation and just themselves as people, and the moment escalated to this point.
Alles hangt af van zijn arrogante kop.
Gaan we het hebben over de telefoon? Wil je het hebben over de telefoon dat je hebt weggestopt? Nee, beter van niet.
Het staat in ons contract duidelijk, geen telefoon. En hij heeft er één.
Dat is wel waar.
Telefoon in je camera. Vuizen, vuile, flikkeren, valse speler.
Vivaldi had a phone in her hotel room and she was using it while they were filming. That is a big production no-no, and it gives you a leg up on the queens in one way or another. The queens knew the secret and Vanessa brought it to light in a very emotional moment. Vivaldi then got way quieter and wanted to more so diffuse the situation at this point. While in the confessionals, she was still very upset that Vanessa exposed this. Moving forward to the runway, when the judges got wind of it, they were very upset with Vivaldi, and as a result, this is where it gets pretty messy. Instead of just disqualifying her, they put her in the bottom that episode and she lip synced and she won the lip sync, sending home Tabitha. Tabitha wasn't doing great in the competition while Vivaldi was doing a good amount better, and though Vivaldi did cheat, I feel like in some ways people could see this as an okay punishment as long as they could get the phone afterwards. But also, if people just wanted the disqualification to happen there, I would totally understand that too. Where it gets the messiest is in the next episode. Vivaldi lands in the bottom next to Kita Minaj. They were both doing well in the competition, but Kita was the very clear frontrunner, not landing below safe before this moment. And then Vivaldi sends her home. I remember the day that this happened, it sent Twitter into a spiral. People were shocked for so many different reasons, but I think the big thing that really stung was that Vivaldi was cheating, and even if last week was the consequence to her cheating, it still had a ripple effect and it ended up sending home Kita. People had grown very attached to Kita at that point, expecting her to be the next Envy Peru who dominated the entire time. So when the rug pulled out from under her, I think they were expecting it to be a very gaggy moment. Maybe it brought more people in, but instead it turned people away, and Holland hasn't gotten renewed for another season. Of course, I don't think it came down to just this moment, but I think this moment did turn a good amount of people away from the show, including myself. I never got into the seasons because I think people were really talking bad about it, so it's like, why do I want to watch it? Kita's elimination episode ended up being one of the lowest rated episodes of Drag Race ever, and it just ended up becoming a mess that they couldn't come back from. Be Like Boy has an incredible video on this that I will link up in the iCard. Gates on Drag Race are some of my favorite moments of the show because it reminds me that there's still so much going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. So anytime that we get a glimpse into that, I think it's just really cool. Season 17 has already brought us a lot of really great moments like this, and I'm expecting a lot more in the future as queens just get more vocal online than they ever had before. There's definitely some other moments from the show that could be considered gates, so let me know if I forgot any in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks again to Bellesa Boutique for sponsoring this video, and I will see you soon with another video.
Oh my god, she stole my jokes.